Hi, Suzanne.
Hi, hi.
Hi,
Here
hi.
I am.
Yes, thanks for joining us. Jill will be joining us very shortly, I think.
Yes, I was busy with the laundry, but here I am now.
Excellent. Thanks. Um, also thank you for posting the comments
Ah, yes.
and the
Yes,
images. I mean, great.
that's
How
what the group is for.
yes, it is. Absolutely. How has your week been?
Oh, it goes by so quickly always. Yes, but this weekend I have been drawing a bit. Yes, I have made a dollar, a very bizarre thing. I can
Uh,
show it to you.
Yes, let me see. Fabulous. Are they
It
not fun? They're fun,
Yes,
aren't
it
they?
was fun, and I felt so much better afterwards.
Excellent. You felt better just because you were in a
Yeah.
better mood or because about your drawing, about what, what, how did you feel about
Yes, I felt so like there was a knot inside of me, and I was nervous, I was anxious, I don't know what. And then I focused on the drawing, and yes, it's like meditation, or
Yes.
you feel better afterwards. Huh?
Yes. Hi, Jill.
Hi,
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 Jill.
Jill. This is Suzanne. Suzanne, Jill.
Yes,
hi, Suzanne. I'm
yes.
pleased to see you.
Yes, thank you. Same for me. Yes, it's
Where
my
are
pleasure.
you? Where are you?
In Luxembourg,
Ah, wonderful.
Luxembourg City. Yes, what time do you have, Chris?
It's 2 p.m., 2 p.m. in the afternoon.
2 p.m. Okay.
Now, are you two both are you on the same time?
No, I shouldn't think so. It's 7 here.
Here it's 8. Yes,
8.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you're on Paris
one
time.
hour. Yes, 1 hour difference. Yes.
Okay, excellent.
And you live on the East Coast?
Yes, I'm
Yes.
I'm about an hour outside of New York City.
Ah, yes. Uh-huh.
Very rural.
Mhm.
I used to have cows in my garage. I mean,
Oh,
not that I kept them there, but they would wander in.
they came.
Yes, they came. They
They
came.
just happened to be there.
Yes. Suzanne, would you please share your first dollar with Jill?
Ah, yes, of course. I said I made a very bizarre thing. It was a plastic spoon I have for my coffee grinder. It has a little brush to clean the coffee grinder. Uh, yes, that's what I made.
Oh, oh, lovely. Gorgeous.
It
I
I
is.
love the
I
color
thought,
scheme. I
what
love
a
the color
bizarre
scheme.
drawing. And then I said, well, I will continue. I'll add some color.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Did you
Yes.
enjoy it?
Yes, I enjoyed it very much. Yes. Uh, some mistakes happened, some accidents happened, but I went on.
That's good. That's good. That
Yeah.
is super. Well done.
Yes.
Indeed.
And
Good.
that is what's so nice about doing a dollar is
Mhm.
that you can you can make good use of accidents if they're really accidents,
Mhm.
and you can just keep moving on. And you
Yeah.
can take the most ordinary thing, like a
Mhm.
plastic spoon with a brush on the end of it,
Yeah.
and turn it into something
Yes.
that's just delightful.
Yes. And I did it later. I thought that I had to do it as large as the swoop, but I could have done it very smaller,
Yes.
much smaller. But well, when it
Oh,
was
it's
done,
super.
it was done. Yes.
And you'll find your own way to use those shapes.
Mhm, mhm,
Sometimes I'll cross over them. Uh,
mhm.
they're just suggestions
Yes,
for what to put in there. But
some help. Yes.
yeah, and you can extend outside the border of the
Mhm.
circle too. At first, it took a long time, didn't it, Jill, before I went outside the border
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
circle?
yeah,
And
yeah.
that was so freeing. It was like, oh,
Yes.
sure, do anything I
Yeah,
want,
yeah.
but we have to, it's fun because we see how we limit ourselves and realize that we don't need to,
Yes.
the assumptions.
And if one plays a color game with it, it's so fun.
Yes, yeah, it is. So how are you, Jill?
Yes, I'm okay, thank you. Yes.
Good, good.
Haven't achieved much today, but there you go.
Oh, well, that's okay. I'm afraid that I'm on a real roll with
Oh,
getting
that's
back to
good.
the PAX series. Very unexpected. I felt in a frozen place again. And then I just started making marks, just making marks. And all of a sudden, it was again like the perfect storm. Everything started coming together. So the last 3 days, I've basically lived in the studio
Excellent.
and
Excellent.
Feeling.
come up with some things that I'm feeling connected to. So that's pretty exciting.
Good,
So
good.
again, just to go over this format, what I've done is I've combined the 2 live sessions for the art book club and the sketchbook story time. And basically, if all we do is talk about a book for the whole hour and a half, that's fine. If we move into sketchbook, that's fine for the 3 of us and whoever shows up. Moving forward, it's our hour and a half to share books that have influenced us, that we found, and what we're doing. And if we find that we're spending a whole lot of time in one area or the other, I may add another session. But right now I kind of shrank it down to make my editing a little
Yes.
bit easier. So we're talking about this one today, which is The Creative Act, A Way of Being by Rick Rubin. And I still haven't looked up who Neil Strauss is, but on the front page, it says Rick Rubin up here, and then down here with Neil Strauss. And I think, Jill, didn't you say that Rick Rubin is
He's music producer. A friend of mine that has read the book, who I didn't know had read it, but she knew all about him and that he produces some popular music people. So is he American? Is the spelling American? I can't remember.
Rick Rubin? It's hard to tell. I mean, it's
But
produced
he's a general
published in
creative.
Canada, so he might
Yeah.
be American.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Penguin Press, New York. But it is fascinating, and it taps into science and certainly spirituality and all those forces that we feel that drives us to pick up pens and brushes, but to basically we have to do it. And that's what this is about, is what is that force? Where does it come from? How do we nurture it? Jill, did you have a chance to read any more last night?
Well, yeah. Well, today, what I've done, because, yeah, I have a copy. I had read the beginning of the book in the preview that you get on Google Books when I first came across the book. So I had read that. So when I got my copy, I sort of started further in, and I read that and I made all sorts of notes. But today I thought, my goodness, I've forgotten what it said at the beginning.
Well,
so I started again, but it's not, yeah. So then I read up to where I'd read before and got back to the bit that I'd made notes on a couple of weeks ago, but a lot seems to have happened since then. So although basically, one way or another, I've read up to about a page 100 or
Oh, wow.
something. But I can't remember much about it, except I can remember now more about the beginning that I've reread today, because it is one of those, isn't it, that we're just going to reread and reread, you know?
Yes.
I did say to somebody the other day that, oh, Rick Rubin says that everybody is creative. And this person, actually, it was Chris, my daughter's partner. And she said, oh, I don't think my dad was. If you saw the way he looked when he got dressed in the morning, and the furniture that he put together and things. But here we are on page 1. Rick Rubin says to create is to bring something into existence that wasn't there before.
Right.
You know, it doesn't matter what it is. It's not just about art or visual things.
No.
It's
Or
about
getting dressed that match. No, it's
No.
about
Cooking.
much broader.
cooking, exactly. Or
Yes,
vacuuming, or
absolutely.
it's your approach.
Yeah.
And that's why the creative act. I mean, they're if you want to call them chapters, they're very, very short. They're just kind of thoughts. So it's easy to skip around and, of course, go back. And from one day to the next, you can perceive what he's saying differently. The opening, there's a little quote in the beginning of, I guess you'd call them chapters. It's a quote by Robert Henry, and he says, the object isn't to make art, it's to be in that wonderful state which makes art inevitable.
That's
And
good,
so
isn't it?
It's wonderful. And I think for all three of us, it's so relevant. You asked last week about, do you have to learn to draw first before you paint? And I think that answers that question.
No.
You don't have to do anything before doing something else in any realm. And you can, it's up to us to focus ourselves in a way that allows us to stay open and explore. And I think that just reading, because I'm only up to page 42. Okay, so I just can't read this quickly.
No.
And I think that just reading the first page, opened up those doors again that in the past couple of months, for multiple reasons, have just, been slamming shut. And in reading this, it was just such a wonderful, it was like a warm hug that said, yeah, just go play again. Just don't worry about it, and just do what makes your heart sing, which is going for walks in the autumn and working in the studio and making scribbles, and then seeing if I can bring them back to feel good. And it's just a fabulous book. What other things did you make notes on, Jill?
Oh, well, I do a very bad thing. I write in pencil on the book, on the basis that no one else is going to look at it and read it and things. So in light of what you've just said, one of the things I particularly noted was he said, to live as an artist is a way of being in the world, a way of perceiving, a practice of paying attention, refining our sensitivities to tune into the more subtle notes. And I've underlined looking for what draws us in and pushes us away, and noting what feeling tones arise and where they lead. And one of the things I think I've been thinking a lot about recently is that I've spent such a lot of time trying to look and trying to notice, but also almost being scared that I'm going to forget it and wanting to take a photo or feel that, oh, I should be able to draw that or paint that or whatever. And I feel I've got to get out of that habit, and I've just got to look and notice and be aware and absorb and believe. I think later on in the book he said, you know, it will be there and it will come out. Is what he calls the source. Everything around us is the source of, you know, everything, all our experiences, and they all go in and we filter them, you know, and then an artist will come up with something that is derived from all of those experiences. But I think if we try too hard to analyze them and to use them too soon, maybe we're not making the most of them. You know, does that I don't know whether that makes sense, really.
Well, it does, and it's a point that he makes where you're noticing, and when you start to label and define what you're noticing, you're then doing research.
Yeah, you're
or
analyzing
observing.
things.
You're
Yeah,
analyzing it, and
yeah,
it's a very
yeah.
different state. And that, Suzanne, I don't know if you're familiar with Sally Hurst. She's another artist who has amazing online classes too, and she's in the UK, and Jill introduced me to her work and her classes, and she was always saying, trust that it, you know, the research you've done or the sketches you've done or the exploration, whatever it is that you've gathered, photographs you may have taken for reference, you can put them all away. You don't have to surround yourself with them when you're working on a piece. Trust that whatever was important to you, if you kept your intention in mind, whatever that intention might be, it will come out. If it's meant to come out, it will inform you. I love that she uses the word inform. And I think that's what you're saying, Jill, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like that
Yes,
you
yes.
don't have to take that photograph. I mean, I've been known to take 1,000 photos in a day when I'm exploring a new city, and I hardly ever look at any of them. For me, in the past, it called my attention to what I was noticing. You know, if I stopped and took a photo, it was kind of like a reinforcement. Oh, that caught my eye. And then looking at all of them, you know, glancing through it, or just remembering, I hardly ever glanced through them. I would realize, oh, I'm always taking photographs of rusty pipes. Like so that's kind of, you know, interesting to me. And I don't know anyone else who takes hundreds of photographs of rusty pipes. So something about it is important to me. And so I found lately, since Sally, I took the course, what was it? Abstract?
Approaches to abstraction.
Approaches to abstraction. And I'd been creating abstract art for, you know, for ages, but I wanted more clarity. And so that's why I took her course, and Jill had taken it, and I saw, you know, such movement forward in Jill's work. I started trusting that, and I find I take far less photographs now. I still take a lot of photographs, but not the multitude I took before, because I thought if I spend a little bit more time, maybe I'll turn around and walk 2 blocks back to take another look at that. Because I've done that, you know, I'll force myself not to take a photograph, and then I'll walk a couple blocks and I can't stand it. I've got to go back. But I go back and I take a more careful look at whatever it was. And I try to notice more about it and be present with it. And it's a very, very different experience.
Mm.
So it's like gathering experiences instead of visuals,
Mm.
and then allowing the experiences to be stronger to come out in a visual language of some sort in my work. And I don't know how that's going to go, but it sure is exciting traveling that journey.
Yes, I'm a bit like you. I take lots of photos of bizarre things. My family says always, oh, she takes our photos. uh, whether things wabi-sabi, things that fall apart, and I feel attracted always to these things. Yes, but I think I can't do anything with it. I take the photos and it's all.
Well, but this is, you took the photo and that was reinforcing whatever that response was, which according to, you know, the book that we're looking at, and certainly Sally Hurst and the trusting, which I find has been very valuable, because she was right. Things did come out and they felt more genuine. It was after taking her course that my work started to really reflect, feel like a mirror of my inner artist. And that for me was always a frustration. I was creating art and exhibiting it and selling it and teaching other people about, you know, drawing and painting. But very seldom did I look at my own art and feel like I saw my soul in it. And it was after starting to trust that my experiences in life, whatever they were, would feed whatever I was doing as I was creating art, and trust it. And it changed. I mean, it may look like I'm doing the exact same thing as I always have in terms of my process, but inside it feels completely different. And I've had stronger response to the work, which is interesting. People who don't even like abstract. And they say,
Oh.
well, you know, I don't know. I never liked abstract before. I think it's bizarre and useless, but this is taking me places or something. What is it about that painting? They say that I can't stop looking at it. Well, I don't know what to tell them. I really don't. I just know that the process of making it was a different experience when I started trusting and opening up more, having faith that I have what I need to create whatever I'm creating.
It's a big leap though, isn't it?
Yes.
It's quite brave, I think, because we all, well, I can only speak for myself, but you tend to get ideas in your head of what it is that you're wanting to produce.
Yeah. And
quite often what you do doesn't match up to
right.
what you wanted to do. And that's another thing, isn't it? That the process is the most important thing. But it's brave. It would be brave to say it really doesn't matter what you come up with in the end. You know, it can just go in the bin. But that's not nice, is it? When you feel that you want to put something in the bin because you don't like it. So I don't know.
Well, I think, Jill, you'll recall when the very first one felt like that mirror, and that was the one that, I mean, I throw a lot away, but I work really hard until it's the point where, okay, you know, I've really done this. You know, whenever it's going sour, I try something completely new, and often that will turn it around. Well, this one painting was going so poorly. I just couldn't stand it. It was making me ill, physically ill. And I thought, okay, this is one for the dumpster. You know, I could scrape it off, but I want nothing to do with any of these layers at all. And I was on my way to the dumpster. And I don't recall what stopped me, but I thought, oh, I should try one more thing. I don't recall what that was, but that painting is the one that was the leap forward. And after that, the experience I had when I looked at it, and it was like picking a lock, you know, when all the gears are in the right place and the door opens. Looking at it, contemplating, looking at it, and then I did something, don't recall. And it was like the gears all locked in, the door opened, and I could see my soul in the painting. And it's an experience I'll never forget. And after that, it's like, okay, this is what my aim is. This is what I've always wanted, was to be able to project my soul out to share with people, because I don't have words for it. And no matter how many paintings I do at this point on, I know that's possible now. I didn't really know if that was really ever possible, but once you experience that, that's what I strive for. Not that in this series that there are now 50 of, I think there are only about, I keep culling them, and some I would rework again and rework, but others were an important stage. And I know they don't reflect my soul, but they reflect an important part of the journey. So they're still part of the series, and others I've redone, changed, found some other solutions. But it's a fascinating process that that I'll just continue. In addition to sketching and making dollars and doing all of those things. But this is really the heart and soul. And that's why this book just blew me away, because it talks about the science. I mean, the exploration, string theory, quantum theory. It doesn't say it specifically, but for years I've been reading a lot of that. And in a very easy way, he translates the complicated the complication of string theory and applies it to art in just a magnificent way. So you don't even really know you're reading about string theory. But the universe is forever expanding, and this little bit that I've read so far is an understanding of that. I don't know if I'm making any sense at all at this point. It's
difficult to tie it down, isn't it?
It
I'm
is.
trying to find the bit where he talks about, I don't know, I can't find it. Yeah, I just
Sorry,
did read.
Gilles, have you been painting and drawing all your life, or when did you start? Or
No, I haven't. I didn't do any art at school, but I went to college to train to be a teacher, and a long time ago, 1968, a long time ago. And I went to do needlework, you know, sewing, embroidery and things. And halfway through the course, the lecturers changed, and we had a very young, dynamic lecturer, and we became part of the art department. So we were doing a lot more sort of arty type things, and I really enjoyed it.
Oh,
then in teaching, so I was doing textile type things, but then in teaching, I was always interested in art education and how children, particularly young children, under 11-year-olds, learn. So I think I got all my sort of creativity hits from teaching. art and
Uh-huh.
getting other teachers to teach art. And then when I retired, I retired a bit early. I decided to go and do some painting classes and drawing classes. So I started with botanical art.
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
My sister-in-law happened to say, "Oh, come along to this class," which is
Mhm.
very tight and very precise.
Mhm, mhm.
And she said, "It'll suit you." And indeed,
Mm.
I did love it and do enjoy it, but I found it really quite restricting. But I did learn a lot. I learned a lot about drawing and a lot about painting from doing it. It was quite a
Oh,
discipline.
yes. So,
But then I came across Chris and her work and her website and everything else, and we became friendly. And I've taken lots of courses since then. And since my husband died 6 years ago, I've been to St. Ives in Cornwall. Have you ever heard of St. Ives in Cornwall? It's look it up
Is
because
it
there's
there where
quite.
Chris is teaching there, huh? Or no?
Pardon?
No,
Chris,
I go to St. Ives with Jill. I've taken classes there,
Yeah,
but we paint there.
yeah.
And it's quite an artist community and has
It
been.
was, yeah, in the sort of 30s, 40s, 50s. Well, a lot of the 20th century, it was quite a center for the arts. You know, they used to say Paris, New York, and St. Ives,
it's
which, you know,
Virginia Woolf had a house there in St. Ives.
right.
Huh?
She did. She wrote she wrote a book about the lighthouse there. Yes, there is a big
Yes.
connection. Yeah,
Mhm.
yes, yes. So I've been to lots of courses at the School of Painting there. And lots of online courses and things. So yes, I draw and paint a lot. And I wouldn't say I'm self-taught. I'm taught by wonderful people like Chris. But I didn't have a formal art education. I didn't go to art college. I was in St. Ives last week on an artist retreat. And
Yes.
I think everybody else on the course, there were 8 of us, and all the rest had been to art college and quite prestigious art colleges, you know, in London, the Royal Academy and things like that, you know. So I felt, you know, quite the sort of beginner, but in the end, it doesn't matter, does it?
No.
Really. And I just make my own little way, and sometimes I'm pleased with what I do and sometimes I'm not, but I think, well, my attempts
That's the way.
are as important as anybody
Yeah.
else's. What about you, Suzanne?
Oh,
You do
yes,
art at school?
I say no, nothing at all. We weren't taught anything at all. We made French grammar. Often
Yes.
we even didn't draw or paint, and it was
No.
really catastrophe. But I liked when the lessons about art, and when I was in college, we traveled a bit to Vienna, Florence, and Rome,
Oh,
and
lovely.
we visited exhibitions. And later, with my husband, we went to London, and I saw the abstract art, which I fell in love with.
In the
Yes,
Tate.
I was
In the
always
Tate.
interested, but I am a crafter. I started with embroidery. My mother and her sister, she did a lot of embroidery, and later I came to the patchwork.
Yes.
I was in the quilt guild, and
Yeah.
then I thought that I would like to know more about color, and so, and I came to drawing through Danny Gregory. One
Oh,
day
yes.
on
Yes.
Amazon, I saw the book, The Creative License. Oh, and I said,
Yes.
oh, I'd
I've
like
got that
to
book. It's
learn to
wonderful,
draw.
isn't it? Yeah, it's really
Yes,
good.
yes.
Yes.
But I'm a bit stuck. Yes, I told Chris last week that I am a left-hander who was obliged to take his right hand, and it never felt good to me to have a pencil or a pen in hand. And yes,
Oh,
I think I don't make progress. Sometimes I think I should stop. I'm not
No.
made for this.
No, don't
And
do that. Don't do that. There are all
yes,
sorts of different types of drawing and types of art.
yeah,
And I
yes,
think the thing is to explore as
yeah, to
much as
find one's
possible.
way. Yeah.
And you will find something that makes your heart sing. I mean,
Mm.
I feel myself moving back to textiles at the moment.
Ah, yes. Mhm, mhm,
Chris,
mhm.
don't you think?
I think so. I think
Yeah.
Yes.
so.
Yeah.
And yes, what you didn't mention was the costume design that you did.
What that I did?
Yes.
Yeah, we did. In this course, you did embroidery with one lecturer, and with the other one, you did either costume or dress, and I chose costume. And I had the most wonderful lecturer who was actually a curator at the Victoria and Albert Museum. Have you ever
Oh.
been there in London?
Yes, I have been there. Yes.
Yeah, and they have the most fantastic costume
Uh-huh.
department, as you know. And she was amazing. She was amazing. And yeah, and taught lots. And we used to do, we had to do, one year we had to design costumes for the college's, I don't know, production of Noah's Flood, Benjamin Britten's Noah's Flood. And so there were medieval costumes.
Mm.
And I remember spending weeks on these big, quite big, and they were collaged from cutting bits of magazines, you know, and sticking them down. And we all did our costume designs, and I was so thrilled because she chose mine as, you know, which is, I was completely amazed. And then we made them from fabric. Actually, we rolled on dye instead of collaging fabrics as you would with patchwork or whatever. We masked off areas and then rolled the dyes on for these things. Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it was really, really good. And one time when Chris and I were in London, we went to Shakespeare's Globe Theatre on the South Bank of London. There's South Bank of the Thames. There's a reconstruction of Shakespeare's Globe Theatre. And there's an exhibition of costumes, and we found a picture of my lecturer, didn't we, Chris? That's, you won't have forgotten that. I mean, she died
oh
some
my,
years
she
ago.
was my professor.
Yeah. So Chris Julie took a photo of me stood beside this lady, but she was inspirational. She was absolutely inspirational. Yeah, wonderful. Yeah. So I'm with you with textiles. When I was my children were young and I wasn't working, I was at home looking after the children and all that stuff. Yeah, I used to do patchwork and quilting, and you know, we had a group that did this.
Oh yes.
So yeah.
That's nice. Huh? I like that too.
Yeah.
Yes, I got a sewing machine when we had the oldest son. I thought you need a sewing machine if you have children. You have to change the trousers all the time.
Yeah.
So I got one, and I started sewing clothes.
Yes.
And yes, and later patchwork. Yes.
And do you still do that now?
A bit, yes. I have some quilts I would like to finish, but I have a hard time with everything nowadays. Yes, but I hope to come back to it. Yes, a bit, but not so much as before. Yes, I made large bed quilts and everything, and
yeah.
What is it
you really want to do? Do you
what
want
I
to
really want to
draw,
do
or
now.
you want to paint? Do you want to be able to walk around with a sketchbook in your bag? And
Yes, I don't think that I want to paint paintings. My idea was always more, I like to make sketchbooks.
Right.
Bookmaking appeals very much to me, and I always thought, well, I would like to fill these sketchbooks,
Yes.
but I don't really fill them.
Jill, do you have handy the fabric sketchbook, the fabric book that you recently made?
It is in pieces, but I could
Oh,
get
right, you
it.
took it apart. Yeah.
I I can get it if you want me to.
Yes, I would, because this is again, it seems to me that it fits in perfectly with the conversation, that
Yeah.
it's has to do with a different approach. You know, if you love sewing, but maybe you don't really want to make clothes. And I mean,
Yeah.
I too, I love making books, and that too tends to
Yeah.
make
You
me
make
sketch more
fantastic
because
books. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just love making books of all kinds. And what Jill is doing with another artist, Tansy Hargan, who is also amazing. She's also a fabric artist and an artist, I mean, an architect and all sorts of things. But she's making books out of fabrics, painting fabrics, stitching on the fabric. So it's another, instead of drawing, you're drawing with your sewing machine.
Yeah.
Way.
Oh
So
yes, I did that too. I like to do that too. Yes.
Yeah. So
Stitching with
drop the
drawing
feed
with the
teeth.
machine.
Yeah.
yeah,
Drop the feed teeth. I used to do that a lot when the kids were little. I used to do a lot of machine embroidery, but I always used to put fabric into a hoop, so it was taut to move it. But what Tansy has shown me is if you paint the fabric with acrylic paint,
It gets stiff.
it's stiff,
Yeah.
and you can just. I'll go and get my book. Hang on.
Oh yes.
so there are so many, there's just not one way. And they all feed into each other. The drawing, the painting, the color, anything that you've learned along the way, the tools can be, the bookmaking can be put together, and you come up with whatever it is that allows you to tap into that marvelous feeling of creating.
Yes, that's for sure. Yes.
That undoes the knot inside, like making the dollar.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how it relaxes you. It's a when you find an activity that is like a meditation, it opens the door to re-experience things in your life, to work through things without even realizing you're working through them, and to
I think
accept that.
yeah.
Yes.
When you get older, you want it simpler. I saw a video of Louise Bourgeois. She was already over 90 years old, and she sat on a table and she was doing small watercolors. And I thought, oh, how nice. You see, maybe making large quilts and sitting on the floor for hours to stitch everything together. When getting older, maybe you want it simpler. And who wants all these quilts I make?
Right. Yes. I just started knitting a sweater made up of all my extra wool, because I don't know anyone who needs another scarf, or anyone who needs another pair of mitts or mittens. And I thought, well, I'll just have fun with the color and the yarn, and put it all together and have a paint sweater. Yes, I'm trying to work through my materials, my paints, my inks, I just have so much, my sketchbooks that I've made, because I love the Coptic binding, and I love making them.
Yeah.
I don't really, I've taught other people how to make them, so I can't even give those people more sketchbooks because they already have too many sketchbooks.
Mhm.
So it's a matter of how do we use up these things, because we
Yeah.
are makers, we're crafters, we're
Mhm.
artisans. Mixed media is just a great way to do it,
Mhm.
where you can glue things down, things that have been important to you as you sort through papers. You can paint on those and collage them, and then they're part of this layer of your
Yes,
memory.
I stitched. I made a sketchbook from Canva, and I stitched all kind of memories on it. For example, I photocopied a letter my father wrote to his parents when he was a
Oh.
child and he was at school, and old photos that are not so good, and I tore them up, and I will show it one
That
day too.
sounds amazing.
It
Yeah.
does. It sounds wonderful. And
Mm.
I mean, to me, that's creativity.
Oh, that is, yes.
It doesn't have to be labeled in any other way, but you repurposed, you reorganized, and you spent time with those memories
Mhm.
as you were making
Mhm.
this, and you created something totally new, but it has all that energy
Yeah.
of your father, instead of just being a letter that you pass on to your kids and then on to their kids and on to their
Mhm.
kids, turning it into something else and processing it for yourself, I think makes it more valuable for
Mhm.
the future generations.
Therefore, I like your idea of making this series like the family treasures and so, and then give the things away.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
like that a lot, yes. Mhm.
Yeah. And then everyone who has those stories, like my siblings,
Mhm.
they, if they wanted, they could have a print of that.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it's not about the stuff anymore. It's about the experience,
Mhm. Mhm.
that the memory that's triggered by that object. It's not the object.
Yes.
Yeah. So Jill, did you find your
Well, yes, I did. I looked in the wrong place. And I really wouldn't want to bore you. I did take it apart and I haven't yet put it back together again because I didn't like the color of the pages. So it isn't back together, and it'll all fall apart as I hold it up. But this is can you see the size of it?
Oh,
This is-
yes. Mhm. Yeah.
Right, now on the front, this is what I call an automatic drawing with the sewing machine.
Yes.
All right,
Yeah.
so it's just scribble, really, just
Mhm.
scribble. Yeah. And then I've got to stitch it all back into place. And then I did a page of little
Oh, yes.
sort of thumbnails.
Mhm.
Can you see those?
Yes, very beautiful. Yes, it's
Very
very beautiful.
tiny, just little
Yes.
thumbnails, and
Yeah.
they are simply scraps of fabric from clothes that have been taken apart, ripped apart with a seam ripper and painted and then put back together again. And then
Mhm.
there was a larger piece which I
Yes.
together and stitched on the machine and by hand, but then I didn't like it, so I cut it up.
I love that page.
Again,
Yes.
little thumbnails. And then there's a whole series of pages which I will just hold up separately. They're not stuck in yet. So this is a little 8-inch square.
Uh-huh.
It's clothes that have been taken apart. So look, you can see there is a sleeve.
Yeah.
There's stitches and things. So it's different bits of clothing taken apart, then painted, and then it's onto a bit of fabric with like an iron-on adhesive, as you would
Yes, I
apply
see.
patchwork
Mhm,
pieces,
mhm, mhm, mhm.
and then stitched down with a sewing machine and then hand stitched. and also writing and drawing. I don't know whether you can see there, but
Yes, I
about
can
my
see.
garden. So
Uh-huh.
I think that says blackbird, and this is, you know, sort of flowers and things at the bottom of the
Uh-huh.
garden. And there's a whole series. This one was spring flowers, and I'm sure this isn't anything that you haven't done. The difference to me from what I've done in the past is that the fabric was painted with acrylic
Yeah,
paint.
with acrylic paint, yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Which if you've got different sorts of fabrics which have patterns on them already and different sort of qualities of weave of fabric, you'll get the paint goes on in different ways, and so you get all sorts of different effects. Again, look, you can see that that's a sleeve. You see where it's sewn on? You can
Oh, yes, I see. Yes.
see.
Yeah.
It's just a bit sort of quirky. So that again is the garden.
And you watered the acrylics down? You watered the acrylics down?
Sometimes, but not always.
Not always.
Sometimes thick, sometimes thin. If you water it down, then you get any pattern that's on the fabric will come through. I like this one, and also reverse applique, you know, where you put fabric
Yeah.
down the machine on top and then cut around. I have fritillaries in my garden in the spring, which is a little bulb with a checker pattern on it, fritillary. And so this was very
it's
inspired,
lovely.
let's say, by
It's
fritillary.
really
So you can
beautiful.
write with acrylic pens and things. So you can do whatever you like. And here's daffodils. They're not really daffodils, but it was daffodil. So these are all going to go into be attached to my sketchbook. There's another one.
Yes.
And this one, oh, actually, this one is stuck down. This one is stuck down on a page. This is a page from the sketchbook.
Could you put just the gel medium on fabric if you wanted the fabric?
Yes, you could stiffen the fabric. Yeah, so you weren't applying color. Yeah.
So if you had created your own fabric, maybe silk screening or painting with silk, then you could stiffen it with the medium.
Yeah. And I just remember, you know, where the piece of fabric came from. That was somebody I took a lump off the bottom of a piece of clothing and didn't throw it away. Got a house full of rubbish, you know, so.
Oh, me too.
There you are. So, yes. So
very beautiful.
it can be punched as well. You can punch holes once it's stiffened. And so I am going to stitch it back together into a sketchbook. So, yeah.
Are your scrolls handy?
And my scrolls are, these are my best bit. I like these the best. Some of the bits that I had left, I just attached them, ironed them onto a long piece of fabric. Just the colors that I felt went nicely together. So I ironed on. And then
playful.
And then I stitched them with a sewing machine. You can see I stitched from that side, but you can see on the back.
And some hand stitching too.
And hand stitching too. Look, there's a bit of hand stitching. So this is a bit of mono printing. This is part of a tea towel that Chris actually made for me, which I painted and then I mono printed. And then it's stitched with the sewing machine.
Yes.
And then hand stitched.
She did use it to dry dishes for quite a while before she painted it.
Yeah, I did. And there's another one. And I just think these are sort of works in their own.
Yeah, very beautiful. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
And before starting your book, you chose your color palette, or because I find the colors are so nice together.
Right. Do you mean, did I choose the palette for the book pages or for the work?
For the book, yes.
Yes, I chose some colors and I painted them, and I spent hours making the book, sewing it together. and then I didn't like the colors, which is why I took it apart and repainted, because there were too many colors.
Ah, yes.
I knew I needed more neutrals, so I painted over some white, because there is so much color in these fabrics. Now, if I tried to do this with paper, it wouldn't work. There's something about the fact that it's fabric, you know? And at the moment, I've no idea what these are going to be. They're just there.
Yes, they are nice rolls. Very beautiful, yes.
So it's just it's just a different approach. It's bringing together quite a formal textile practice and art practice. Yeah.
I think it would be wonderful strung up in a garden blowing in the breeze. You know how you can be walking and all of a sudden you find yourself with
in
a
amongst
place with Tibetan flags hanging down and blowing around. There's something very sacred about.
Yeah, there's a tradition really, isn't there? You know, like a Buddhist flags or something.
Yes.
They're quite handy, these. They're just tiny little things.
And just the history of scrolls too.
Yes, yes. I'm quite keen on the idea of scrolls. I went to an exhibition in Bristol a couple of weeks ago, and one of the artists, they were all painters, all paintings on the wall. But in one corner, the bit I liked best was a long piece of Japanese paper, white paper. And this artist was using birdsong as a theme for a lot of her paintings. And this scroll was hanging out. It went from ceiling to floor, and it was just I think, well, it was just birdsong. It was just done in inks and paints and drawn. And I really just feel she had a long piece of paper in front of her on the floor, probably, of her studio, and she just responded to the sounds of the birds. And it was absolutely beautiful. Beautiful.
What was it drawn? Did she use ink or paint or?
Yeah, ink, paint. Her name is Bev Campbell. Yeah. Birdsong. Yeah, it was, and it was very spontaneous. It was obvious that she, it was a studio piece. It wasn't for sale. It was very large, very long. And it was a scroll. And I think the fact that it was on Japanese paper, was really interesting. It was just in monotone, just in blacks and grays. Might have been charcoal on it as well.
Did you take a photo of that?
No, I didn't. But I think
sometimes, people really don't want you to take photos in.
No, all the artists were there and I didn't feel it was appropriate.
Yeah.
But I did notice on Instagram that she posted yesterday that a large canvas that she'd painted, which was textures of creams and whites with a great big circle. And that was birdsong. And she sold it yesterday.
Nice.
So she was pleased, I'm sure. But I like the scroll best. So scrolls, I think there's a future in scrolls.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. And who knows what else? I mean, it's wherever our inspiration leads us.
Yes. But we shouldn't go in too many directions, huh?
Well, no, I mean, I'm certainly guilty of that for most of my life. And as you were saying, Suzanne, before, in getting older, which I don't mind at all, I want to focus a bit. I not so much focus more, because still, I get very excited, inspired by a lot of things, but I want to explore things a little deeper.
Mhm.
So I find that I'll get excited about something and I'll say, oh, that's got to go on the back burner, and I may not get to that. But
Mhm.
there are other things that I want to see through to the end, or if there is an end,
Mhm.
because there are just far too many inspirations I've had that I didn't develop into anything.
Mhm.
And for a
I
long
feel
time.
excited. I feel excited about too many things.
Right. Yeah, I can get excited about anything, it seems.
Yes,
And
so do I.
especially if somebody is talking to me about something and they're really passionate about it, I am completely infected by their passion and enthusiasm, and
Mhm.
I want to give that a try.
Mhm.
And I'm enjoying being that excited about something and then stepping back and saying, is that something I really want to do?
Mhm.
And do I want to do that as much as I want to do this other thing? And for decades, I never asked myself that. I would just
Mhm.
run down that rabbit hole and run down that rabbit hole. And I certainly run down a lot still, but fewer. Not because I don't have the energy, but because I want to see where these other paths that I started walking will lead to.
Mhm.
And there's no way to find out unless I keep walking down them and getting a little further. And the further down I get, the longer it takes me to get further, because those are layers that are hard to unravel inside, I think. So I would, this pack series that I'm working on has changed drastically from the beginning, but it is still that series. And that's what's exciting to me, because it's gone, deeper, and it's I still have to put myself back in that park to create any of them. So it is part of that, but I'm growing with it. Yeah. I find that so much garbage comes out of my mouth because it's impossible
No, not at all. Not at
to
all.
talk about that experience of unknotting inside as we create. Yeah. Okay, well, this is great. I love this. This is what this is all about. It's not about really sticking to a book or sticking to anything, but going around and around during this time. And I think that starting with this book is a great way to plant seeds of conversation. I did write a couple of notes. I will head back to the book for just a minute, because there were some things that and I think that we talked about this, Jill, but I don't remember when. They talked about there's a time for certain ideas to arrive, and they find a way to express themselves through us.
Yeah.
And we were talking about how we'll have ideas and maybe we don't act on them. And then we think, oh my word, somebody a month or two later, you'll come across the fact that they did act on that idea. And it happens so often, and you don't know that when you're younger because you haven't lived long enough, but as decades go by, you can go back and look and see, yeah, that it's as if that idea was meant to happen then. And somewhere in this book it mentions that and talks
that
about,
if you don't act on an idea, someone else does. The idea goes elsewhere. I made a note of that today.
page 11. I thought
right.
that was just a scribble, but
yes.
Oh, right, that was
No,
just,
that's like being like a child. Page 11.
says there's a time for certain ideas to arrive and they find a way to express themselves through us.
Oh, yes.
Um,
Yes. Right. If you have an idea you're excited about and you don't bring it to life, it's not uncommon for the idea to find its voice through another maker.
right.
This isn't because the other artist stole your idea, but because the idea's time has come. And he talks about there being artistic movements and things like the Bauhaus or the Impressionists or, you know, whatever. There seems to be waves of ideas, and it's as though they're all hanging around somewhere in the air.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
a lot of people come across them at the same time, you know. It's an interesting concept, that really, isn't it? You know? Yeah. Yeah.
and that was right. You mentioned source before, Jill.
Yes.
And
Source is everything that's around us, all our experiences.
yes, this and I'd like to read this section about it because he talks about sources cloud, which I think really it made sense to me.
Yeah.
It says this content does not come from inside us. The source is out there, a wisdom surrounding us, an inexhaustible offering that is always available. We either sense it, remember it, or tune into it, not only through our experiences. It may also be dreams, intuitions, subliminal fragments, or other ways still unknown by which the outside finds its way inside. To the mind, this material appears to come from within, but that's an illusion. There are tiny fragments of the vastness of source stored within us. These precious wisps arise from the unconscious like vapor and condense to form a thought, an idea. And then this is what I love. It may be helpful to think of source as a cloud. Clouds never truly disappear. They change form. They turn into rain and become part of the ocean, and then evaporate and return to being clouds. The same is true of art. Art is a circulation of energetic ideas. What makes them appear new is that they're combining differently each time they come back. No two clouds are the same. This is why when we are struck by a new piece of art, it can resonate on a deeper level. Perhaps this is the familiar coming back to us in an unfamiliar form. Or maybe it is something unknown that we didn't realize we were looking for, a missing piece in a puzzle that has no end.
That's great, isn't it?
I love it. I love it. And thinking of source as a cloud, where, yeah, it's ever changing. And you could work on one piece your entire life. You know, with each experience, you could change it. But what's fun is to make multiple pieces. And for me anyway, they work like puzzle pieces when you look at what you've made, sometimes looking at an old sketchbook and seeing a sketch that I drew, and it takes me back to that time. But that was a piece of the puzzle that I didn't really realize was a significant piece of a puzzle until much, much later. And others, I mean, why have I kept some sketches from years and years ago, and yet I've thrown out so many other things that were better paintings, better drawings, but I wasn't connected to them? Why have I kept some of these sketches that aren't very good at all, but I kept them? And as I look at them now, they reflect part of a lot of what's coming out now. So it was a little clue that I didn't pay attention to or see, or didn't give myself credit for it being important. And yet something inside of me knew it was, and I kept it in this envelope of sketches that for some reason I couldn't throw away. So that's something to look back at too, to look at old sketchbooks or not even sketchbooks, things you may have made out of clay or a dress you made that is a rag now, but you just can't throw it away. You know, what story is behind that? So that brings me to some of the challenges I will be posting.
No, not the challenges.
The challenges, I know, there's no current challenge right now, and I got carried away in the studio, so I didn't post the challenge I was going to. But for the next couple of weeks, or maybe the next month, I'm going to post challenges that tap into that idea of taking just something completely unrelated and working with it in some way to see what comes up, you know, like in a dream state, something that happened during the day may come to mind, and your brain, part of the function of the brain is to make connections with any other experience in your life, to kind of like a Google search, you know, for something that would be connected. And so then you get very strange dreams sometimes, because two ideas that really aren't connected at all have something similar, like a Venn diagram. You know what Venn diagrams are? A Venn diagram is like if you have a crowd of people and you draw a circle and all the women are in one circle, females in one circle, all the males are in another circle, and then there's a circle with children. Well, children are male and female, so that would overlap. Okay, so the common thing, the young girls will share part of the circle of all females. Anyway, so some of these unrelated things will connect with whatever experiences you've had in your life. And I haven't done this yet, so I'm going to be trying it too. What does it connect with, and working through it to create something, doesn't matter what, doesn't have to be finished. But what comes up as we're creating something that was tapped into by something that didn't relate to anything at all? Does that make sense?
I'm sure it will.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that he mentions it in this book. He talked about how if you arbitrarily open a book, read a passage.
Yeah, if you're
Okay.
stuck for an idea,
Okay, so
you keep yourself open, you'll find it.
I open this up and here's a sentence. In many of the greatest bands, collectives, and collaborations, a degree of polarity between members was part of the formula for greatness. The magic comes from a dynamic tension between different points of view, creating works more distinctive than a lone voice would. Okay, so that, like a prompt for writing a poem or something, but a prompt for something visual. And it may start with an automatic drawing to just tap into that, or to give your brain some time to make a few connections. I'm not sure. This could be a disastrous challenge, but I think it'll be fun and interesting to see what we come up with. And it can be three-dimensional, it can be a song, it could be anything. You know, it's not, you don't have to hold to it being a drawing or a painting or a two-dimensional something. Okay, well, that's a clue. That's the first one, is to, oh, and you don't have to use this. You could just open up any book or magazine that's around and take a sentence or two, or even a few words. I mean, you could take 3 words of rules undermining rules. I mean, that's just part of a sentence. Or complete as many elements. With the intention of tapping into something in some way related to where you are with your art now. Not just a totally separate experience, but a way to go a little bit further. If it's a dollar, Suzanne, that you're making, even if you think about that plastic spoon again, there's got to be some way you can connect that plastic spoon to the true essence of each work. I don't know. Jill, what do you think?
Is what I think.
I think it will be fun. So how long do you think that we need for this?
We need a couple of months for that.
No, I'll give you 1 week or 2 weeks.
Oh no, at least 2.
Okay, I'll give you 2 weeks. And 1 weekend, I'll present one more because I'm only going to do 3 of these before I decide that I want to create a different kind of challenge. You'll have enough of it after 3.
My difficulty is posting them when I've done them. I mean, I did the last challenge and then I came to post it, and it's because I'm lazy and I do it on my phone. And then it'll only take 6 photos, and then I put the wrong 6, and then it jumbles them up. So what
Yeah.
I've spoken about doesn't make any sense with the pictures that appear. So
well, you can still talk about it because we can sift through the pictures.
yeah.
Now, I don't know why they don't let us. I mean, it's just
I think I should post it on the computer would be better. I think I try and do it on my phone because I'm being lazy.
they get jumbled if you post
Do
on the
they?
computer too. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, what
Can
maybe
you only do 6? I mean, that was a problem with last time's challenge. I had lots of photos and it did show the process, but I could only post 6.
can we post more than 6 in the forum or in the circles?
Possibly, but then you have to come out of the challenge and go
Right.
into the forum.
All right, but you can just mention in the challenge that you've posted it in the forum.
Okay.
Because also there's some people that maybe aren't going into the challenge, and it would be fun to see it in the forum.
Okay.
I don't know. This is still, I requested before that we should be able to reorder the photos, and I'll have to go back and ask again because I haven't had time to look at the tutorials that they have created since they started this, and they have worked out quite a few glitches.
Yeah, they have. Yeah.
But that to me is a major glitch, and it's really focused.
Frustrating when you put them in a certain order.
Right.
You know, you put your photos in and then you identify which ones you want in which order, and then they
Well, this is also because artists are not a priority of theirs. The platform I'm working with, Kajabi, is more focused on personal growth and coaching and all that people are making money doing, and music, when they didn't even have art as a topic to list for a search. And I wrote them about that. I said, this is not good at all. Plus they weren't explaining things carefully enough, and I said, you are really eliminating a whole generation of people who do not think this way. You can't, not everybody cares about this challenge, but the challenge was like to lose weight or to grow in this personal thing. I said, artists, we want to put the images in the right way to explain what we're doing. At first, you couldn't even put multiple images. Anyway, there were issues that they've worked out, but I have to keep reminding them that there are tutors on their platform that are artists, and we're not coaching people how to make 7 figures and to network and do whatever. I mean, all that's great, but that's not what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
I'm trying to have a community that can share our ideas easily.
Mm.
So we're gonna have to make do with what we have until
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's fine.
they
That's
can
fine.
do it.
Yeah.
The other thing you could do, if you have a whole lot, and I don't mind doing this because you know how it doesn't take time at all. You send me, let me know, and then you send the images to me, and I can make a short video that can be posted in the right order.
Can post a video. Okay.
Yeah. And then it's because I can condense it down, and I doubt that you would have so many photographs that it would fit within the legitimate amount that can be posted right in the challenge. Okay, that's a good, even if it's only 5 images,
Mm.
that's a solution. If it's important to have it in order, just let me know, and I'll set up a shared folder that you can always go into, you know, for yourself. So Suzanne, you would have a shared folder,
Mhm,
and you can just let me know that you've just added some photos to it.
mhm.
And it would take me 10 minutes to pull them into Keynote and turn it into a video and pop it back to you.
Mhm.
Not that I'll do it in the next 10 minutes, but you know, within a day or two, I would be able to get it back to you.
Mhm.
All right, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a solution, because I find it frustrating too, and I don't know why I didn't think of that before.
Well, it's more work for you though.
But that's easier work. And oh, I did want to mention something that I think is really odd. Suzanne, you know what's happened with Skillshare, and you're okay. So for some reason, just recently, this morning, all of a sudden I got all these messages from Skillshare, and not from Skillshare, but through Skillshare, because somebody was pulling the puddle. She posted great things. And it's just like, oh, okay, this is what happens every time I get frustrated with Skillshare. And then I get a rush of people loving the classes,
Students, yes.
spreading the news of the classes, and I think, oh, gee, maybe I should do. But no, I'm not. I
Mhm,
answer their questions, but I'm
mhm,
not posting new things on there. I would much rather put together slideshows for the two of you
mhm, mhm.
than pour my time down the drain. So again, it's sad, but you know what, all I can do is hope that people find their way if they want
Mhm.
to take further courses.
Mhm.
But there's still plenty on Skillshare until Skillshare gets annoyed enough with me that they take me off completely. And you know, I don't know. But that's where I'm narrowing things down.
Mhm.
I'm so much happier not struggling with that.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, anything else that either one of you would like to bring up today?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. It would be wonderful to see some of your machine embroidery
Oh
next
yes,
time.
next time I'll show you.
That would be
good.
wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be really good.
Yeah. And Jill, do you have any ideas for, shall we start again with the creative act?
Yes, if you'd like to, we'll pick out a bit of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, what I was going to do, if you want to do it instead, I thought if we ran out of things to say today, which I guess we didn't, I was going to
Oh,
show the Barbara Ray Arctic sketchbooks.
I can't find mine.
Oh, well, maybe we'll do that, because I
Oh,
think
look.
this may give
Oh.
you some ideas of how, without stressing over drawing, Suzanne, you could playfully
Mhm.
fill some of your sketchbooks that you've made.
Mm.
Mhm.
Okay, so maybe I'll present this
That
as
would be
the
great.
book, also focused on a different way of sketching, because it definitely is, and it's wonderful. Okay, so that's what we'll do next week.
I have a sketchbook by David Hockney. His Yorkshire sketchbook. It's very beautiful too.
Oh, Hockney, David Hockney.
Mhm.
Yes. Jill, what's the name of your dog?
My dog is called Hockney. After
Named
David
after
Hockney.
David Hockney. Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Do you
yeah.
also have that sketchbook?
I do. I do.
I mean, that book on the sketchbooks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do too. Yeah.
We can
Here
talk
is
about that
Hockney.
sometime.
Hello, Hockney. I
You know,
love artist sketchbooks.
Yeah.
I think the thing with sketchbooks is there are so many different sorts of sketchbooks for different uses.
Yeah.
And I've spent so much time not making sketchbooks because I'm not that clever, but I occasionally do. But I sometimes buy a beautiful sketchbook and then I won't use it because I
It's
feel
too
it
precious.
needs to be so precious.
Mm.
And then sometimes I get a cheaper sketchbook and I don't care about it. And then sometimes I think this is ridiculous because I've got this pile of sketchbooks that are empty, or a pile of sketchbooks with 6 sketches and then nothing. So sometimes I think, right, I've just got to use this, you know.
Well,
just
that
got to
was
use it.
something years ago that really got me back into my sketchbooks, is that I gathered up all my unfinished sketchbooks, and I had 66. And I started working my way through, but then I also started making my own, learning the Coptic stitch binding. So I made a whole lot more. So I still probably have 20 some that are incomplete, counting the new ones that are incomplete. But so we start using them.
Yeah. Because the nicest artist sketchbooks, if you go to a gallery and, you know, they have these glass cases with the artist sketchbook opened up. Things. And I love it when it is a real thought pad, you know, when the artist is just using it to think, and there's scruffy writing and note taking and ideas. That's
lots of
what
color.
I want to be able to do.
Well, you can.
Constantly trying to do it.
Shall we do the David Hockney one? I don't have that. I would love to see that. Shall we do the David Hockney book that you both have the week after next?
Yeah.
Okay. So
also got a Henry Moore sketchbook of sheep.
I love
sheep.
Henry Moore.
Here it is.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
I'm sure I've got it. I will have to make sure that I've got it, but yeah.
Okay.
So we could do a whole series of artist sketchbooks.
Yes.
And then perhaps, I don't know, it might be a bad idea, but we could just have a quick look at the different ways that we use sketchbooks.
Yes.
For the different purposes.
Yep. Because the class, the workshop I'll be teaching at Chapel Cottage in Wales, come whenever that is, springtime, is 15 ways to use a sketchbook.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Because there are so many ways, and I really want to encourage artists to use it as think pads and not be so precious about it. And there is this whole craze. I mean, I love urban sketching and all, but it's so much about, you know, composing your page and making each page work. Well, my goodness, where's your think pad then? We need also to use sketchbooks as think pads.
Yeah.
Because we get stressed out enough with paintings trying to make them work. And I do have my family treasures. Yes, that I have sketchbooks that are each page is composed in a way, and the doll art, you know, that's a whole different purpose though.
Yeah, it's the purpose, isn't it?
Yes.
What the purpose is.
And then it gets crazy because if you have too many, you know, this for that, this, if they're too specific. And then of course I use very thin ones when I travel because I don't want to put a big thick one at risk. So yes, we can have a great conversation about multiple ways to use the
Mm.
sketchbook.
Mm.
I'll kind of make a list and then we can make a tentative schedule. But next week will be Barbara Ray, and the following
Brilliant.
week will be David Hockney.
Yeah.
If both of you could please snap photos of some of your favorite ones,
Mhm.
and I'll make sure, Jill, you already have a folder to share into, right? Okay, I'll start.
Pages
I'm
from
gonna-
our sketchbooks. You want to see pages from our sketchbooks?
Well, pages from the David Hockney one.
Ah,
So that what I can do is, so that the recording that's posted for other people, maybe they look at the recordings, maybe they don't. That I will put into the keynote so I can pull it up and we can all see it really clearly, and you don't have to hold the book up and try to get it
yes.
in focus like
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
It works really, really well.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, however many you want to send is fine. But then you can each talk about why certain ones are your favorite ones, or whatever it is. And it'll be, all of it will be fun for me because I don't have the book. Okay.
Brilliant.
And
Okay.
Jill, you do find the Barbara Ray.
Yeah, I'll have to look for both of them because I'm sure I have got the David Hockney one, but
And there aren't page numbers in the Barbara Ray. So if you can, you don't have to snap a good photo, just snap a photo and I'll take the photo out of mine.
okay. Of
Okay.
one of particular ones that I like.
If there's, yes.
Yeah. I love Barbara Ray. Suzanne, have you come across Barbara Ray before?
No. I
Oh.
will have a look.
Yes.
Oh,
And it's
oh.
Barbara Rae.
Yes,
She's
I'm
Scottish.
I
She's
wrote
still
it down.
alive.
Ah,
She lives in
Scottish, yes.
Scotland.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Her color is
Her
divine.
colour. Not so
Oh,
much in the Arctic sketchbook for
No.
obvious reasons, but the big book that we've got. Oh, the colour.
uh-huh.
But
Oh,
that's
yes.
All
that's
over
why
the world.
that's
Mm.
why I find this so fascinating, because the person that paints those paintings
Painted that. Yeah.
painted these sketches, and this was when she was in the Arctic.
Mm.
So sometimes you assume that people's sketches are going to be similar to their paintings,
Mm.
but she really got information. And anyway, I found it intriguing to look at that and then think, okay, that's what she went home with. That's the information she wanted to gather when she was there.
Mm.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So
you're welcome.
you would recommend the Rick Rubin book for me, The Creative Act?
Yes, I
Okay.
really would.
Uh-huh.
It's a keeper, and I think it's fine to write in it because I don't imagine you would be giving it away. It's, and I'm really curious to hear the parts that ring true for you, whatever they are. It's a book that is never finished reading, I think. I haven't come across that many books like that. But this is a true gem. Jill found it, and I'm so ever so grateful. It's great.
Okay.
So have a wonderful week, and
Yes.
Thank you.
we'll meet up next week, I hope.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Right.
Thank
Good.
you very
Bye-bye.
much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.